Emma hadn't spoken in 187 days. Her mother counted every single one. The doctor said there was nothing physically wrong with Emma's vocal cords. Her throat was fine. Her mouth worked. Her tongue could move, but Emma had stopped talking, not gradually, not slowly, not because she was shy or stubborn. One day, Emma was a normal 8-year-old girl who laughed and sang and asked a million questions. And the next day, she was silent. Completely silent. It had been 187 days since Emma's voice had been heard. 187 days since she'd said, "I love you" to her mother. 187 days since she'd answered a question in class. 187 days since she'd whispered a secret to a friend. 187 days of silence. The doctors had tried everything. Speech therapy, play therapy, medical tests, psychological evaluations. Nothing worked. Emma's mother, Catherine, had tried everything. 2. Begging, bargaining, crying, praying. Nothing worked. Emma's silence was absolute, impenetrable, a wall that no one could break through. But Catherine had noticed something. Every afternoon at 4 p.m., when Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood came on television, Emma would sit in front of the TV, and her lips would move, not making sound, but moving, forming words. Silent words that matched what Fred Rogers was saying on the screen. "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood." Emma's lips moved, but no sound came out. Catherine watched this happen every single day. And every single day, her heart broke a little more, because Emma was trying to speak. She wanted to speak, but something inside her wouldn't let the words come out. Catherine didn't know what had stolen her daughter's voice. The therapist suspected trauma. Something had happened. Something Emma couldn't or wouldn't talk about. But Emma wasn't talking. Not to therapists. Not to doctors. Not to anyone. Except, maybe, to Fred Rogers. So Catherine did the only thing she could think of. She wrote a letter. "Dear Mr. Rogers, my name is Catherine Miller. I live in Pittsburgh with my daughter Emma. She is 8 years old. 6 months ago, Emma stopped talking. Completely. The doctors can't find anything physically wrong. The therapist thinks something traumatic happened. But Emma won't or can't tell us what. She hasn't spoken a single word in 187 days. But every afternoon, when your show comes on, Emma sits in front of the television, and her lips move. She's trying to talk to you. Or with you. I don't know, but she's trying. Mr. Rogers, I know this is an unusual request, but I don't know what else to do. Would it be possible for Emma to meet you in person? Maybe if she could see you, really see you, not just on TV, maybe she could find her voice again. I know you're busy. I know you probably get hundreds of letters like this, but I'm desperate. My daughter is disappearing into silence, and I don't know how to bring her back. Please help. Sincerely, Catherine Miller." Catherine mailed the letter with no real hope of a response. Men like Fred Rogers didn't answer desperate letters from mothers. They had shows to film, episodes to write, important work to do. They didn't have time for one silent little girl in Pittsburgh. But 3 days later, the phone rang. "Hello, is this Catherine Miller?" "Yes, this is Fred Rogers. I received your letter about Emma." Catherine's hand went to her mouth. She couldn't speak. "Couldn't breathe, Catherine? Are you still there?" "Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd call." "Of course I called. You asked for help. And Emma needs help. That's what matters." Catherine started crying. "Thank you. Thank you so much. Catherine, I'd like to meet Emma, if that's all right with you. Would tomorrow afternoon work? I could come to your home. Just me. No cameras. No crew. Just me." You want to come here?" To our house? Yes, if that's okay. Why? Catherine whispered. Why would you do that? Fred was quiet for a moment. Then he said something Catherine would never forget. Because Emma is trying to speak. And when someone is trying that hard to be heard, we're supposed to show up and listen. Asterisk. The next afternoon at 3 p.m., Fred Rogers arrived at the Miller home. He was wearing his cardigan, carrying a small bag. No television crew. No photographers. No publicity. Just Fred. Catherine opened the door. She was shaking. Mr. Rogers, thank you for coming. I don't know what to say. Fred smiled gently. You don't have to say anything. Where's Emma? She's in the living room, watching your show, actually. The tape from yesterday. She watches the episodes over and over. Fred nodded. May I go in? Of course, please. Fred walked through the house and into the living room. Emma was sitting on the floor in front of the television, cross-legged, 6 feet from the screen. Completely absorbed on the TV, Fred Rogers was talking to the camera, to children, to Emma. And Emma's lips were moving, silently, matching his words. Fred stood in the doorway for a moment, watching. Then he walked into the room and sat down on the floor beside Emma. Not too close. Just near enough that she could see him in her peripheral vision. Emma didn't react. She kept watching the TV, kept moving her lips silently. Fred didn't say anything. He just sat there, watching the TV with her. For 10 minutes, they sat in silence. Fred and Emma, side by side, watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood together. And then, very quietly, Fred spoke. You know, Emma, I've been doing this show for a long time, and I always wonder if anyone is really listening. But I think you're listening, aren't you? Emma's lips stopped moving, but she didn't turn to look at Fred. She kept staring at the TV. Fred continued, his voice soft and gentle. I think you have a lot to say. I think there are words inside you. Important words. But sometimes, when something scary happens, the words get stuck. Don't they? Emma's hands tightened into fists. It's okay if the words are stuck, Fred said. You don't have to talk if you're not ready. But I want you to know something, Emma. Your voice matters. What you have to say matters. And whenever you're ready to say it, I'll be listening. Emma's shoulders started shaking. Not with sobs, just trembling. Like she was holding something back. Fred reached into his bag and pulled out a puppet. Daniel Tiger. You know who this is, don't you? Emma's eyes flicked to the puppet, then back to the TV. This is Daniel Tiger. He lives in the neighborhood of make-believe. And you know what? Daniel gets scared sometimes. Really scared. And when he's scared, sometimes he doesn't know what to say. Have you ever felt like that? Emma didn't move, but her breathing changed, faster, shallower. Fred made Daniel Tiger's mouth move. And in Daniel's voice, higher, softer, more childlike, Fred spoke. Sometimes I feel like I don't have words. Like the words are trapped inside and I can't let them out. And it's scary. Because if I can't talk, how will anyone know what I'm feeling? Emma's eyes were fixed on Daniel Tiger now. Not the TV. The puppet. Daniel continued. But you know what? Even when I don't have words, I'm still Daniel. I'm still me. And the people who love me still love me. Even when I'm quiet. A single tear rolled down Emma's cheek. Catherine, watching from the doorway, put her hand over her mouth to keep from making a sound. Fred spoke as himself again, not Daniel. Emma, can I tell you something? You don't have to be afraid. Not here, not with me. Whatever happened, whatever hurt you, it wasn't your fault. Do you understand? It wasn't your fault. Emma's whole body started shaking. And you're safe now. You're safe. And you don't have to keep the scary thing inside anymore. When you're ready, You can let it out, and it won't hurt you anymore. Emma turned and looked at Fred for the first time. Her eyes were wide, terrified, full of tears, and then she did something she hadn't done in 187 days. She opened her mouth. No sound came out, but her lips formed a word. Help. It was silent, but Fred understood. Yes, he said softly. I'm here to help. We're all here to help. Fred Rogers stayed for 2 hours that first day. He didn't push Emma to talk. He didn't ask her what had happened. He didn't try to fix her. He just sat with her, in silence, with Daniel Tiger between them. Sometimes Fred would speak. Sometimes Daniel would speak. But mostly, they just sat together. And slowly, so slowly you almost couldn't see it happening, Emma's body relaxed. Her fists unclenched. Her shoulders dropped. She was still silent. But she was present. Really present. For the first time in months, when Fred finally stood to leave, Emma looked up at him with those wide, scared eyes. I'll come back tomorrow, Fred said. If that's okay with you. Emma nodded. Barely. But it was a nod. Good. I'll see you tomorrow, Emma. Fred came back the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that. Every afternoon at 3 p.m., Fred Rogers would arrive at the Miller home. No cameras. No crew. Just Fred and Daniel Tiger. And every afternoon, Fred would sit on the floor with Emma. Sometimes they'd watch the show together. Sometimes Fred would talk. Sometimes Daniel would talk. Sometimes they'd just sit in silence. Emma never spoke. But she was listening. Fred could tell. On the 5th day, Emma did something unexpected. She reached out and touched Daniel Tiger. Just a small touch. One finger. On Daniel's head. But it was contact. Connection. Communication. Fred smiled. Daniel likes that. He likes when people are gentle with him. Emma's fingers stayed on Daniel's head for a long moment. Then she pulled it back. Fred spoke quietly. You know, Emma, Daniel has a secret. Do you want to hear it? Emma looked at Fred, waiting. Daniel's secret is that he's been hurt before. Someone was mean to him, and it scared him so much that he didn't want to talk about it. He thought if he talked about it, it would hurt again. Emma's breathing quickened. But you know what Daniel learned? He learned that keeping the hurt inside made it hurt more, not less. And when he finally found someone safe to tell, the hurt started to go away. Not all at once, but slowly. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Do you have a hurt inside, Emma? A hurt that's too big to talk about. Emma nodded, very slightly, but it was a nod. I thought so, Fred said gently. And I want you to know something. You don't have to keep it inside forever. When you're ready, you can tell someone. It doesn't have to be me. It can be your mom, or a doctor, or a therapist. But whoever you tell, they'll help you. The hurt won't be as big once you share it. Emma looked at Daniel Tiger, then at Fred, then back at Daniel and then, in a voice so quiet it was almost not there, Emma whispered, He hurt me. Those 3 words changed everything. He hurt me. Fred didn't react with shock or surprise. He just nodded slowly. I understand. Someone hurt you, and that's why you stopped talking. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. Can you tell me who hurt you? Emma shook her head violently. Not yet. She wasn't ready for that. That's okay, Fred said. You don't have to tell me everything right now. But Emma, listen to me. What happened to you, whatever that person did, it was wrong. It wasn't your fault. Do you hear me? It wasn't your fault. Emma's face crumpled. And for the first time in 187 days, sound came from her throat. Not words. A sob. A deep, wrenching sob that had been trapped inside her for 6 months. And then another sob. And another. Emma wasn't talking, but she was making sound. Her voice was coming back. Catherine, watching from the doorway, started crying too. Fred didn't try to hug Emma. He didn't crowd her. He just sat beside her, holding Daniel Tiger, giving her space to cry. That's good, Emma. Let it out. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad, and angry, and scared. All those feelings are okay. Emma cried for 10 minutes. Deep, body-shaking sobs. All the pain that had been locked inside her for half a year, finally being released. When the sobs finally subsided, Emma looked at Fred with red, swollen eyes, and in a hoarse, barely there whisper, she said, I was afraid if I talked, he'd hurt me again. Oh, Emma, Fred said softly, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but you're safe now, and talking about it won't make him hurt you. I promise. How do you know? Because your mother loves you, and the police can protect you. And people like me, and your teachers and your doctors, we're all here to make sure you're safe. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, It was my uncle. Asterisk. Those 4 words led to everything else. Emma told Fred what had happened. Not all at once. In fragments. In whispers. With long pauses. But she told him. Her uncle had hurt her. Had told her if she ever told anyone, he'd hurt her mother too. Had made her believe that staying silent was the only way to keep her family safe. So Emma had chosen silence. For 187 days. To protect the people she loved. Fred listened to every word. Never interrupting. Never judging. Just listening. When Emma finished, Fred said quietly, Emma, you are the bravest person I've ever met. Do you know that? Emma looked at him, confused. You stayed silent for 6 months to protect your mother. That's love. That's courage. But you know what? You don't have to protect her by staying silent anymore. Now we can protect you by telling the truth. Will he go to jail? I don't know. But I know that you telling the truth means he can't hurt you anymore. Or anyone else. Emma was quiet. Then she whispered, Can you stay while I tell my mom? Of course. Catherine called the police that evening. Emma, with Fred sitting beside her holding Daniel Tiger, told her mother and then the police officers what her uncle had done. It was the hardest thing Emma had ever done. Harder than 6 months of silence. Fred Rogers never spoke publicly about Emma. Not in interviews. Not in speeches. Not in documentaries. He kept her story private, sacred, between them, because Emma hadn't asked to be famous. She'd asked to be heard. And Fred had heard her. Years later, in 1998, Fred received another letter. Dear Mr. Rogers, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Emma Miller. You helped me when I was 8 years old and couldn't talk. I'm 18 now. I just graduated from high school. And I wanted you to know what happened to me. After I found my voice again, after you helped me find it, I became an advocate for other children like me, children who've been hurt, children who are scared to speak. I volunteer at a crisis center now. I talk to kids who are going through what I went through, and I tell them what you told me. Your voice matters. What you have to say matters. And when you're ready, someone will be listening. I've helped 37 children find their voices in the last 4 years. 37 kids who were silent, just like I was. And now they're talking. They're telling their truth. They're getting help. And it's all because you showed me that silence isn't the only option. That speaking up, even when it's scary, is how we heal. You saved my life, Mr. Rogers, and now I'm trying to save other lives. Because that's what you taught me. Thank you for everything. With love and gratitude, Emma Miller. Fred Rogers read Emma's letter and cried, not sad tears, grateful tears, because Emma hadn't just found her voice. She was helping others find theirs. That's what healing looks like. Not just surviving, but turning your pain into purpose. Your trauma into advocacy. Your silence into strength. Fred wrote back. Dear Emma, of course I remember you. I could never forget you. I'm so proud of the person you've become. So proud of the work you're doing. So proud of your courage. You told me once that you weren't brave. But Emma, you were wrong. You've always been brave. From the moment you opened your mouth and let that first silent word out, help, you were brave. And now you're helping others be brave too. That's the most beautiful thing a person can do. Keep speaking, Emma. Keep helping others speak. The world needs voices like yours. With love and admiration. Fred Rogers. When Fred Rogers died in 2003, Emma Miller was 23 years old. She was working full-time at a children's advocacy center, helping survivors of abuse find their voices. She attended Fred's memorial service, and when asked to say a few words about Fred, she stood in front of hundreds of people and spoke. When I was 8 years old, I stopped talking. For 6 months, I was completely silent because someone had hurt me, and I thought that staying silent was the only way to stay safe. Fred Rogers could have ignored my mother's letter. He could have been too busy. He could have said, "I'm sorry, but I can't help with this." But he didn't. He came to my house. He sat on my floor. He brought Daniel Tiger, and he waited for days until I was ready to speak. And when I finally spoke, when I finally whispered, "Help," Fred didn't fix me. He didn't force me. He just listened. That's what Fred Rogers understood better than anyone. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone is just show up and listen. Fred Rogers gave me my voice back, and then I used that voice to help others. That's his legacy. Not the show, not the cardigans, not the songs. His legacy is the voices he helped find, the children he helped heal, the people he helped become who they were meant to be. Fred Rogers taught me that silence isn't safety. Speaking is safety. Truth is safety. And I will spend the rest of my life teaching others what Fred taught me. Emma Miller is now 42 years old. She's the director of a national organization that helps child survivors of abuse. She's helped thousands of children find their voices, and every single day in her office there's a framed photo. Fred Rogers sitting on a floor with a little girl. Daniel Tiger between them. Under the photo, a quote from Fred, "Your voice matters. What you have to say matters. And when you're ready, I'll be listening."